Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Hasan. I'm a real estate agent in Vancouver, and this is actually the first video I'm recording where I'm actually speaking one-on-one with you guys versus recording and uploading marketing videos. So this is new for me, but what I wanted to talk about today, and I think you'll find this very useful if you're someone who's sitting on the fence. You may think that you're prepared for home ownership. You're wondering whether you should purchase a property or whether you should continue renting or continue living at home with the folks. I think this video will be really good for you because I'm going to share my personal story in being a first-time buyer, and I'm going to go back about 15 years or so. But for me personally, and I know this is easy for the realtor to say, but for me personally, purchasing my first property was the best financial decision that I could have made. And I believe that everyone should, at some point in their life, get the opportunity, put themselves into a situation where they can purchase a home. Because for me, a lot of things changed in my life, and I've seen it with clients as well. Do I believe home ownership is for everyone? It's not. Do I feel like when you're a first-time buyer, will you ever fully be ready for home ownership? I don't believe so either. But again, it really changed the course of my life. So I'll start by kind of talking about what my scenario was like, and then whether I think you should continue renting or whether you should purchase your first property. So going back for myself, I live in Vancouver and lived in a suburb of Vancouver for most of my life, from when I was 5 years and up, and I lived in a place called Richmond, BC. You may be familiar if you're watching and you're local, but I lived in Richmond, BC. I lived at home with the folks, but I came to a situation where my family was finding Richmond to be a little bit pricey for us, and moving eastward would have allowed my family to get into a property that was no longer on the main road, still purchase a detached home in an area in North Delta. Now for me, I was in my early 20s. When you're young like that, this was going to be a very big sacrifice for me. I viewed it as a very big sacrifice for me, moving away from my friends and moving out of a city that I had lived in, for almost 20 years. So at that point in time, I was kind of in a scenario where I felt that I needed to make a decision now. Was I going to move out and rent, or was I going to move out and purchase a property? Now, I didn't have a lot of money. My family, we were a middle-class family growing up, so there was no handouts and, here's son, here's your down payment. There was nothing like that. In fact, I believe for my first down payment, I got the money from my student loan. So I didn't finish college, but I ended up taking some of the money I had for that and put it into real estate. So I felt like I was in a scenario where I had to make a decision to be able to stay in Richmond. And so I did just that. I found a property, and it was a one-bedroom condo, 650 square feet. At the time, it cost about $200,000. And I laugh about that because, now that's probably worth, 350 to 400. It's very tough to find a one-bedroom in Richmond for under 400, really. So for me, I made that decision at the time, again, in my early 20s. And to put myself in client shoes today is actually very easy, because when I made that decision, it wasn't actually a decision that I wanted to make. In my ideal world at that time, my parents would remain in Richmond. I would remain in the basement suite. I would continue to get home-cooked meals. I would continue to not have to pay rent. So I was very, very freaked out about making such a significant decision in my life. And I remember talking to my dad about it, and my dad has always been a big, big proponent of real estate. And I said, Dad, am I really ready for something like this? And he told me at the time, he goes, home ownership is one of those things where you will never be truly ready for it. There's going to be things that come up that are going to surprise you. They're going to shock you. They may be costs involved that you were unaware of. You're going to have some things happen when you're a homeowner that won't happen when you're a renter, and you may not be prepared for them, but one way or another, you're going to find a way, and you're going to adjust the rest of your lifestyle in order to be a homeowner, and it's going to come naturally to you. And for me, again, in my early 20s, I think that's what I viewed as the biggest sacrifice was I had some disposable income. I could go out to eat whenever I wanted. I could go out to the bars. I could go out to the clubs. I could, blow my money because I didn't have to worry about a roof over my head. So fast forward to actually moving into the property and what changed. My lifestyle did change, and I would suggest that it did change for the better. I was being very cognizant about where I was putting my money. I was focused on earning more money. I didn't go out as much, but when I look back, I can't say that I didn't enjoy life as much as I could have had I not been a homeowner. So yes, there was different things that happened in the building, strata fees going up, and special assessments you have to pay, and scrambling around to try and find money for all these different costs that kind of came up out of nowhere. So yes, that did happen. But you know what? One way or another, I found a way to pay those bills. And fast forward, I stayed in that property for 15 years. And if I can go back, and if there's a suggestion, I'll probably do a separate video on this. But one suggestion I'll give to you is if you're purchasing your first property, make sure it is a great investment as well. What I mean by that is your first property, your first home, it's not a destination. It's not where you are ultimately going to end up. You may think you're going to purchase a property and you're going to live in this property for the rest of your life or whatever. It's not going to happen, and you are going to put yourself into a situation because you took the risk and you made the sacrifices. You're going to put yourself in a situation where you can now hold on to that property, rent it out, and purchase a second property if you choose. And what I did, a mistake that I made when I purchased my first property, is I purchased into a building that restricted rentals. So in fact, it didn't allow me to do this. When I sold the property, and that was just recently, had I been able to rent the property, I definitely would have hung on to it and purchased another property for myself, something a little larger. So yeah, and fast forward to today, sold the property. It was definitely, like I said, the best financial decision I've ever made. All the time and money and energy that I put into this property, and strata living, it does limit your risk in some ways, I would say, in terms of out-of-pocket expenses, maybe compared to a detached home. But everything that I put into this home and all of the sacrifices that I made, looking back, everything was all worth it. So coming back around to kind of the first-time buyer, because I can remember how I felt, and I felt like I wasn't ready, and I'm still a kid, and I still want to have fun, and I don't want this responsibility. I don't think you're ever going to be ready, but if there's one thing you can do to set yourself up for the future, I believe, is to focus on your four walls and focus on your home, because that's something that you're obviously going to come back to every day, and that can be a point of your stability in life. And another thing that homeownership did for me, once I owned a piece of property, I wasn't focus so much on material things that weren't assets. So real estate to me became my luxury, or what I like to have, what I like to keep. And what it did for me is it always in the back of my head, it allowed me to approach different decisions in different ways. I never felt desperate. I spent a lot of years in sales. I never felt desperate for the deal. At the end of the year, each year, my net worth was increasing, and largely because of the property that I owned, but also because of the mortgage pay down. So kind of a long story short, when I first purchased my property, I was not ready whatsoever, mentally, financially even. It's not like I had this amazing paying job with security. I think once I got into the property, I'm pretty sure my job was terminated maybe 6 months or a year after I got into the property. So it's not like I had prepped and saved up over all this time. I kind of found myself in a situation where I had a short window of time where I needed to make a decision, and if I wasn't put in that position, I probably wouldn't have made that decision. But I made the decision, and looking back, again, it was the best thing that I've ever done. So if you're a first-time buyer, or if you're someone on the fence and you're wondering, okay, should I rent my property? Should I purchase? And I know this is easy for me to say coming from a realtor, but it does come from personal experience. I suggest to everyone that you do purchase a property at some point in your life. I feel like everyone deserves to kind of have that property behind them, something that they can call their own. So yeah, that's my story. I hope you found this helpful, and it maybe ease some of your concerns you might have if you are on the fence right now. Again, I'm a realtor in Vancouver, so if you need any help in the Vancouver area, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my contact info in the description below. Other than that, thanks for watching, and take care. Have a great day.